Hey guys, it's Moonlander back with another horror game review. And today we're going to be looking at a game from Red Hook Studios called The Darkest Dungeon.
More blood soaks the soil.
So The Darkest Dungeon is available on PS Vita, PS4, Xbox, and PC. And this is a dungeon crawling turn-based strategy game that I spent about 22 hours on and 50 in-game weeks. And I feel like I might be like halfway through the game. Okay, in The Darkest Dungeon, you play as a guy who inherits an estate from a relative who committed suicide after unearthing portals to dark dimensions which release all sorts of bad stuff inside the place. And now that you've inherited this property, it's your responsibility to clear the area out. So in order to clear the estate of all these dark things, you must enlist heroes from the local tavern in order to help you defeat your enemies. Now this game has all sorts of guys that you can put on your team. There's a couple of kinds of healers. There's people that do buffing and dots on the enemies. And then you have your sort of like a tank and ranged attacks. And they all line up in a line of 4. You only take 4 with you at a time. And you definitely want to build a team of 4 that complements each other. And they all have a preferred position in line to where they can best use their abilities. So in this game you have 5 areas that you can choose to do quests in. There's a cove, a weald, the warrens, ruins, and then a place you don't want to go to until you're a higher level called the Darkest Dungeon. Now each area has different quests available for you to choose, and as you progress through the game they have different level requirements or suggested level requirements in order for you to try to defeat these missions. Now for your characters, you can upgrade the weapons, the armor, and also level up their abilities and pick from I think like 7 different abilities for each type of character. Now you also acquire permanent buffs and debuffs which can be altered through paying for services at the town sanitarium. And now these permanent debuffs are acquired based on a stress level. Your team each has their own individual stress level. So the stress of each character grows through fighting and enemy abilities which they use on you, which actually just raises your stress instead of like damaging your health. And you can go through 2 different levels of stress. The first time you fill your stress bar, you get a debuff. And this isn't good. It starts affecting your whole team. Whether they start passing when it's their turn to use an ability, sometimes they just do whatever they feel like, or they attack your own team, or they steal items you find. And then when you reach the second level of stress, you have a heart attack and lose your health, and it can end up leading to permanent death. So that's a big part of this game, is it has permadeath. You can retreat or attempt to retreat from fights, but sometimes it's just too late and you lose somebody you've put quite a bit of effort into. It's a big part of the game, and you just gotta learn to accept it, and you know, you gotta push on. So this game is full of different enemy types, and they all require different tactics and strategies. And from the boss fights I did encounter, I thought they were all challenging and they all required some sort of strategy to defeat. And another part of the game is you do have inventory slots and a vendor in which you purchase items to help you on your dungeon adventure. And whether this is food, which is required at random while you're progressing through a dungeon, it does like a food check where your team needs to eat. You need to buy torches, and there's a torch meter, and it determines how bright and how difficult the fights are gonna be. And you can play with it empty, and the rewards are supposed to be better the lower your torch level is. So the things I liked about this game is I did think it was a fun turn-based strategy game. I enjoyed the boss fights. I found them to be frightening. And when I did defeat a boss, I felt really good about myself. The game requires strategy at, I found, a reasonable level, and to the point where it made it fun and not like where you had to look up strategies in order to pass things. It's definitely a game where it makes you feel good when you succeed, and you do feel kind of upset with yourself when you fail. But not to the point where you feel like quitting the game or that you have to like look up other people's strategies in order to defeat it. And I would definitely say it's a lengthy campaign. I can only guess that I might be like halfway through the game. I know the darkest dungeon area requires you to be at a resolve level of 6, and I was starting to get some of my characters up there, but how far it really goes I don't know. And like I said, I spent 22 hours with it, and I am gonna keep playing the game, but for my channel wanting to do horror game reviews, I spent like a month on this game. I just wanted to move on to another game, and I really don't know how long it's going to take for me to finish it. And another part of this game I liked is I definitely like the feel of it. It definitely fits the title. It is dark, and the enemy types, the environments, and just the mood and atmosphere of the game. It's definitely a horror type experience, I would say. Okay, so the things I didn't like about this game is I felt like it took me a while to understand everything, and there's quite a few currencies. And I remember when I first started, I was really afraid of investing in the wrong upgrades, because you gotta upgrade all the buildings in order to upgrade your characters. And I know at times the game felt a little hopeless, and I did play this on the lowest difficulty, and I still wasn't sure exactly how I was gonna fare through this game when I first started it. But after just keeping with it and through trial and error, I ended up learning how everything worked, and the stress thing became less stressful to me after I understood exactly what was going on with it. But it's definitely a game. It might save you some time. It might help a little bit if you try to look up like a beginner's tips video. I mean, I did watch one, and it didn't really help me that much because I didn't really know what they were talking about. I just had to kind of plow through it. So anyway, my final thoughts about this game is I think it is a well-made turn-based strategy game. I mean, I would definitely suggest this one to any turn-based fan. And even if you're not the biggest turn-based fan, this is a fun and unique experience. And I would like to give this game a 9 out of 10. And they just released a DLC for this game called The Crimson Court. And after I finish completing this game, I most likely am going to buy the DLC because this game definitely never really felt stale to me, at least at this point in time, and I found that to be a big positive with a turn-based game. So yeah, so I would definitely suggest this one. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next review.